Update. Am I the a-hole for refusing to help my brother after his ex-girlfriend scammed him out of nearly half the equity of his house? Original post, I 37 female, have an older brother George 45 male, who isn't an idiot, but he can be lazy. Definitely the type to rely on weaponized incompetence whenever women and girls are around. Example, he literally acted like he didn't know where our mom kept the paper plates in the house he'd lived in for nearly 20 years, just so she'd get up, go into the kitchen, and make him his plate during the holidays, just 1 week post her bunion surgery. Side note, they both tried to passive-aggressively make me feel guilty for not offering to fix my adult brother's plate, so our mom wouldn't have to do it. Like I wasn't already doing most of the cooking and would be doing most of the cleaning afterward. At age 30, George was given a windfall from our grandfather's estate. I got something too, and used it as a down payment for a nice 5-bedroom house that's easily worth double now. During this time, he met Melinda, 50 female, a nice lady, smart, responsible, hardworking, sweet, and very organized. She came into the relationship with a steady job and was upfront about her inability to have more children after nearly losing her life giving birth to her daughter. George said he was okay with that, but whenever Melinda brought up his hesitation about marriage, he'd say he had complicated feelings about not being able to be a father if he fully committed to her. He'd claimed that since he was willing to overlook her fertility issues because he loved her, she needed to show her love by waiting for him. That line worked for 12 years. After Melinda moved in, George demanded that she pay half the bills and part of his mortgage in exchange for allowing Melinda's daughter to live there. At the time, Melinda had few options. Her landlord was raising rent, and she was helping pay her sister's medical bills. They justified it by saying it was still cheaper than her old rent. I said nothing because not my relationship. 2 years ago, George was caught cheating. Melinda was furious and left, but later returned, seemingly to work things out. It didn't stop George from cheating again, though, but Melinda shrugged and said this was still a better deal. As long as he kept it out of the house, she'd cope. Recently, some damage occurred to George's house, and he needed repairs done. He hated the labor of finding a contractor, taking time off work, or handling paperwork. Melinda offered to take care of it, and he didn't question it. Whatever she gave him, he signed, in front of third-party witnesses. Turns out, Melinda got George to sign paperwork stating she was entitled to 45% of his house. Now she's dumped him and is demanding that George either sell the house or buy her out. George is trying to fight this, claiming he didn't fully understand what he was agreeing to. He's found a lawyer willing to take the case, but the fees are expensive. George and our mom think I should help, but I'm refusing. I don't see why I should shell out thousands to save another grown man from his own lack of foresight, especially when there's a good chance he won't even win. I'm being called heartless and a bad sister, so I have to ask, am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. George had it coming. Stringing that woman along for years, manipulating her by making her feel guilty over not being able to have more children, having her pay half the mortgage for his house, and then cheating on her? He made the bed. Let him lay in it. This is most definitely his karma. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Your brother is a cheater and a fool. Was Melinda a bit underhanded? Arguably, yes. Does she deserve a share of the house in return for all she paid into it, not to mention 12 years of domestic and emotional labor? Arguably also yes. But when it comes to whether you should shell out for your brother's legal fees, the answer is an unequivocal no. He was a huge a-hole and ridiculously careless with his most significant asset, and that's not your responsibility to fix. He's an adult. He needs to fix his own mistake. I think OP needs to join Team Melinda and learn how to underhandedly make sure her mother's will is fair and that her assets are locked up now. I feel like the brother is on a path to convince mom to hand over his inheritance early so he can deal with Melinda. Tale as old as time, parents give golden man-child money, and the other child is left scrambling to pay for their parents' medical expenses. Honestly, I am Team Melinda. She played a dirty game, but George was willing to guilt and use her while catching whatever STDs he could find. Now for the update 2 weeks later. Quick recap. My brother and mother are trying to guilt me into giving my brother money to pay for an attorney to prevent his former long-term live-in girlfriend from getting a payout, after he claimed she'd tricked him into signing documents making her a partial owner. Okay, there's been an update, and I have to say, while I still don't think my brother is an idiot overall, he is a lazy and very arrogant dumbass. I also wanted to clarify a few things. Melinda and my brother were in a relationship for 12 years, but they only lived together for about 9 to 10 years. Also, the documents were signed in the presence of a notary, who asked my brother if he understood the context of the documents, and he affirmed that he did. And to the person who said that my brother was house poor, you hit the nail on the head. My brother spent the majority of his inheritance and savings on buying that house, and it barely had any furniture in it. When Melinda moved in, she paid to have it furnished on top of splitting the utilities and paying rent. Now on to the new stuff. When my brother's house needed fixing, he let Melinda do the grunt work of finding reputable establishments because he didn't want to be bothered. Melinda presented him with 3 options and convinced him to go with Company A, not the real name, because they were offering seasonal discounts for first-time customers and/or new owners for specific items. Melinda's plan to get both discounts was to present it as if she recently became a partial owner and had my brother email Company A to see if they'd be willing to accept that. Company A responded that if Melinda recently became part owner of the house, they'd be willing to give a partial discount as a courtesy. Company A was a small business but had an excellent reputation for service, quality, and deadlines, so my brother was all in. What he didn't realize was that Company A went by the honor system, but their website did say proper documentation was required. Melinda told my brother she'd come up with fake documents that he could sign in the presence of a notary she knew through a friend who was supposedly in on the scam. They weren't, that's just what she told him. The actual signing was at their home in front of the notary and 2 people from Company A who were there to survey the area. So basically, my brother thought that he and Melinda were scamming Company A, when in reality, Melinda was scamming him. He thought the documents he was signing were fake, but they were real, and that's his defense. This is why he had trouble finding a lawyer. Wouldn't blame anyone here who thought this story was fake, because WTF. Anyway, I'm not going to give him the money, but I will give him a list of realtors. So his defense is, I thought we were scamming a company, but really she was scamming me, Your Honor. Yeah, I think it's best to stay out of this one. I almost peed myself when I laughed. I mean, I don't think 12 years of putting up with your brother equals a scam. When she gets equity in the house, she probably paid a bunch of stuff for. Yeah, it sounds like she did actually contribute financially to the house. After 10 years, most people are considered to be in a settled relationship. And it's not like she got part ownership the next day demanded half the sale price. Being a moron isn't considered a defense, and the whole situation is a mess of he said, she said. I think you are being very sensible to stay out of it and not contribute towards your brother's legal fees. He's going to lose anyway, and should take the hit. There is no loophole for him to find to nullify her share of the house, and to be honest, she is probably entitled, as she's been living with him for so long. He's an unreliable narrator, and after you remove all the extra crap he's saying, he basically wants her out on the street after 10 years, without a penny to her name. And she probably did tell him she needed to be on the deed to do some of the things he was expecting her to do for the property for years. And she's not wrong. If she is paying for those repairs on someone else's house, she deserves to be on the deed. I don't think he was scammed. I think he was lazy and didn't think this through, and at best has remorse, and at worst he wants to scam her out of something he agreed to. Next story. Am I the a-hole for cutting my son out of my will after he ghosted me over a $50,000 loan that I gave him to start his dream, but he used it to party and travel instead? I, 55 male, gave my son, 25 male, $50,000 to start his dream business. He promised to pay me back, but instead, he used the money to travel and party with his friends. When I confronted him, he ghosted me and hasn't spoken to me since. It's been almost a year now. I've sent messages, emails, and even tried calling him through relatives, but he refuses to respond. I can see his social media posts, pictures of vacations, nightclubs, and expensive dinners, but not a single acknowledgement of what he's done. I'm hurt. disappointed, and honestly angry. I wanted to help him build a future, not fund a year-long holiday. I've always tried to be a supportive father. When he first came to me with his business idea, I didn't hesitate. I believed in him. I thought I was investing in his potential, not throwing money into a void. The silence that followed after I asked for accountability felt like a slap in the face. My daughter, on the other hand, has been nothing but responsible and grateful. She works hard, saves wisely, and never asks for anything she can't earn. She's even offered to help me around the house and check in regularly, while her brother can't even bother to return a text. So, I've decided to make a difficult choice. I've updated my will. My daughter will inherit everything. My son will get nothing. I don't do this out of spite, but out of principle. Actions have consequences, and I refuse to reward betrayal with more generosity. I'm not sure if I'll ever see that $50,000 again, but I hope one day he'll realize what he's lost. Not just the money, but my trust and respect. Maybe then he'll understand that family support isn't an endless resource. Am I the a-hole for choosing to prioritize my daughter's future over my son's potential regret? Let me know in the comments if I'm being too harsh, or if I'm finally standing up for myself. Include a line saying that son had received his share of inheritance prior to your death in the form of a $50,000 loan. I would leave it at "for reasons known to him" and move on. Better yet, ask the attorney who is drawing said instrument up. OP, make sure to protect your daughter. Provided he's not talking to her either, let her know of your plans and how much you do not want her to share the money with him. If they are in contact, then write her a letter that she'll get upon your death. Definitely talk to an attorney to make sure he can't contest the will. If he does come around eventually and you put him back in, deduct the $50,000, add to it interest for the years he didn't pay you back, plus inheritance taxes that he didn't pay on that money. Not the a-hole. Actions have consequences. Wrote a letter to your useless son and tell him, son, you already spent your inheritance, and if you challenge the will, name some legal stuff. I think you have to leave him a penny or something. Consult a lawyer and have everything documented and kosher. Protect your daughter from your son. By all means, that last sentence. Son is responsible for his own life with no money going forward. He will latch on to sister with sob story. Blood takes care of each other. Long discussion with her. Sad your son treated his only parent like his actions showed. Toss him to the curb. He does not deserve a parent like you. Daughter gets everything. Son gets nothing. Or ask your attorney. If you have proof of this loan and that it was never paid back, it would make sense that stating in your will you are forgiving the debt to your estate might equal to a $55,000 inheritance. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my mom she is also to blame for why my brother and I won't host our parents for the holidays? Last Christmas was my brother's first holiday not living at home with our parents. He wanted to host everyone in his new apartment. Also around this time last year, my parents had mutually agreed not to get each other gifts, as they were focusing on paying off some debt. Apparently, there was some miscommunication. My dad thought this meant no gifts at all. My mom thought this meant no gifts, but they'd still exchange stockings. In our family, stockings are always small stuff. Body care, candy, you get the picture. I was living with my parents last year, and I had heard all the discussions. I honestly saw both sides when, on Christmas morning, we all woke up and mom didn't have her stocking filled from dad. She was very quiet but clearly hurt. He ran out to the pharmacy, quickly bought some things to fill her stocking, and said he was sorry. Now, should my dad have communicated better? Sure. Do I understand my mom's hurt by the situation? Also sure. But I thought they'd be able to swallow it all for lunch at my brother's. We go, and my dad is doing his best to make up for his blunder. My mom is in a terrible mood and keeps picking at him all day long. Toward the end of our time there, she made a snarky remark about my dad not filling her stocking. My dad flipped his lid and started screaming that nothing he does is enough, then stormed out. My brother was clearly upset by having Christmas ruined by their arguing. I convinced my mom we should leave not long after. My brother and I were upset with both of them. My dad shouldn't have flipped out and screamed. My mom also should have kept her comments to herself or spoken to my dad later. My brother was embarrassed as his roommate had come home, and while he was in his room, he overheard the arguing. My brother stopped having my parents over altogether after that, though he'd still invite me. My brother would also visit us at my parents' place. Thanksgiving is fast approaching, and we were all trying to coordinate plans. I recently got my own place, but honestly don't want to host after last year. My brother said he's never hosting another holiday at his apartment again. My mom was hurt by this, but eventually we all just planned to have dinner at my parents' place. Later on, my mom was complaining to me that my brother won't have us over anymore, feeling pushed out. She said it was my dad's fault, and she shouldn't be punished. I told her while my dad was wrong for screaming, she chose to be whiny all day long. I clarified that I understood her hurt, but she also partially ruined the day by not letting it go. My mom got mad at me and accused me of taking sides. I said I'm not. If Dad whined, I'd tell him the same, but he seems to understand that he ruined it. I also pointed out that neither of them ever apologized to my brother, and I'm not confident they'd never do it again. My mom says I'm in the wrong for how I spoke to her. Am I the a-hole here? Edit. Because of course everyone's favorite game is, let's play devil's advocate. This is not my parents' first time having an argument like this. In the past, it hasn't been about Christmas, but it's been about other stuff. They hate each other, but stay married due to not being able to afford to divorce and live separately. They hate each other. Their screaming matches are constant, and they have ruined other family events. We've suggested therapy, and they won't go. They want to stay trapped and miserable. Yet, when my brother and I bickered about stupid stuff as kids, they'd scream at us for ruining their peace. We're at the point where they don't get to do this without consequences. This is the consequence. For those saying I shouldn't blame my dad as much as I do in this post, the main reason I hold him at 50% is because he started screaming. If he had just remained quiet and spoken to my mom later, then he wouldn't be held to the same degree. Because he screamed and refused to take accountability for his tantrum, he goes up here too. But I agree, without that, my mom is more at fault. You made the best point of all. Neither apologized to your brother. You also mention you think this situation could happen again. It kind of says all we as the internet needs to know about your parents. A person who doesn't hold themselves accountable will perceive accountability from others as an attack. That's exactly what your mom is doing. She sees herself as the victim, doesn't want to accept that it's partly her fault. I feel like people with a constant victim mentality aren't just incapable of seeing themselves at fault for anything, but they actively seek out victimhood. Because in their minds, once they have been wronged, then it gives them carte blanche to act as crappy as they want to. And that's their real endgame, permission to be a bad person.